And what can be pure air than that was given out of God's mouth? So I think it's very important that we go back to nature and we enjoy fresh air. The next thing, and I believe it's the last thing I'll cover tonight, is rest. People who get regularly 7 hours or more sleep at night are 4 times less likely to catch a cold than those who only get 6 hours of sleep. So how does sleep actually impact your immunity? Well, what is interesting is that most cells in your body, and I would say nearly all of them, have a biological clock inside and are able to relate to your circadian rhythm, which is, your waking and sleeping cycle. Disruption to this clock has been shown to lead to increased rates in cancer in shift workers, for example. Your immune cells are no exception. They also have this clock and rely on it, healthy sleep-wake cycle, for adequate immunological regulation. Having a good sleep-wake cycle increases your cytokine levels, which, when you are sick, are very beneficial to fight off infections. They are like your, again, chemical messages that help your immune cells better fight infection and say where they need more help when they're struggling. On the other hand, when you get good sleep, it also decreases your overall inflammation. Lack of sleep results again, and I've said it multiple times this night, that low-grade inflammatory state that increases your risk of those chronic diseases. Good sleep also increases the ability of your innate immune cells. These are the ones that are basically just the grunt warriors that go in first to fight infection, to actually produces more of them and replaces them more quickly as they're lost on the front lines. It also helps your adaptive immunity. You can think of these guys as your generals of your immune system. They regulate your innate immune responses, and they also are important for adaptive immunological fighting, release of antibodies, which we all hear about when we get vaccinated, as well as your adaptive immune response and leading to immunological memory, which means when you get infected again by the same bug, your body is able to fight it faster and quicker. To finish off, just some key pointers on how to have good sleep hygiene. No screens an hour before sleep. I think we can all say we all struggle with that one. A cool, dark room while we're sleeping, and to make sure you manage your stress levels before bed. No late exercise or late eating, and focus on relaxing activities before you go to sleep, like stretching. So, in closing, we'll do a quick recap. Your immune system is a beautifully complex system that not only fights infections, but determines friend from foe, organizes and drives the healing process, and is your body's natural ability to fight off cancer. We talked about how we can improve your immune system with nutrition, making sure that we get the necessary vitamins and minerals, water to flush toxins, improve mucosal membrane barriers, and transport our immune cells to where they're needed. Temperance, having too much of something is not healthy. Avoid inflammatory foods and toxins like smoking and alcohol. Rest, your immune cells work on a biological clock. Healthy sleep habits increase your immune function. Exercise reduces your baseline inflammation, which is associated with chronic disease, and increased immune surveillance. Sunlight, both UV radiation and vitamin D, make sure that your immune system operates within healthy levels. Fresh air, improve immune function and reduces the negative impacts of pollution that it has on your immune system. And lastly, trust or a positive mindset. Chronic stress dampens your immune system and raises your baseline inflammation, leading to chronic disease. That is it for me tonight. We'll now move to the questions and comments, if we're able to get a microphone. Thanks, Celine. Any questions, comments from anyone tonight?
Tess. Yep.
We had one at the front here. Do you have a question? Comment? Yep. Go for it.
There's a neurosurgeon. His name is Jack Kruse, Kruse with a K, and he said that wearing sunglasses impedes your vitamin D going into your eyes. The sunlight, you need the actual sunlight, and that's in the morning or in the afternoon, to go in through the eyes properly, because that sunlight, that actually activates the melatonin at night for you to sleep better.
There you go. I did not know that. Thank you. next to you, Ravi.
Could you go a little bit deeper with the autoimmune, where it fights your own body again?
Yeah. I'll go back to this slide as it's easy to explain immune function. So autoimmunity, or basically your immune system attacking your own cells, basically when you come against a pathogen or a disease-causing microbe, your innate immune system, that's everything on the your left of the slide, you can see at the bottom, innate immunity, usually picks it up and it takes these antigens and presents them, or information of the dead bacteria, to your adaptive immunity, so your T cells and B cells. And these guys are your smart cells that help with your adaptive immunity. What can happen is that usually your T cells go through a very rigorous training process where they are screened, they have receptors for a very specific code. Your body has, how to explain this? Think of it like a computer system that has the ability to predict every single possible bit of information or bacteria that you could face in your lifetime. And your body just churns out these T cells. So when a bacteria that has that same code comes along and the T cell binds to it, it can be activated and fight it off better. However, because it's producing these things at random, you can get a receptor on a T cell that's very similar to one on one of your normal. Sorry? What that means is that when the T cell, if it doesn't get killed off early and get released into your body, it can actually start attacking your own body's cells. So usually we have a very strong regulation process that goes through and is this T cell attacking? Can it attack you? Sorry. Sorry? Sorry. Turn this off. Yeah. So basically, your body can detect whether these T cells might attack your body. They have, I guess, like a lineup of all your different body's immune cells, and your T cell will come and bind to each of them. And if it binds too strongly, your body like, nah, that's it, that's a risk, and it kills that line of T cells. That's what normally happens. However, sometimes when our immune system gets dysregulated, as I talked about, not doing enough exercise, eating inflammatory foods, or not getting good sleep, not getting enough vitamin D, that process doesn't work the same. And these cells that can attack your own body's cells get released into the system. And once they're out, there's no taking them back. And that's what leads to autoimmune conditions. Does that make sense? We can treat it by making special targets that target those type of immune cells. However, yes, once you get an autoimmune condition, most of them are for life. Any other questions? Amar had a question.
Hello? Question? Yep.
And how much is the enough sleep? And is there any certain pattern of sleep? You hear that?
Yeah. So, sorry. You're asking how much is enough sleep? Yeah. I think the general consensus is more than 7 hours, you're doing pretty well. Between 7 and 9 hours is pretty good. More than that, I think I might just call you lazy. But any less than that, your body doesn't get enough time to rest. And usually getting sleep as around when the sun goes down, so 8, 9 o'clock, best times to go to sleep, because the hours before midnight have been shown to be the best time for your body to rest and rejuvenate, if that makes sense. So going to bed early is actually better for you. So you might get 7 to 8 hours of sleep after midnight, but that's not as good as getting more hours before midnight, if that makes sense. How early is early? Man, I want to say a bedtime of 9 p.m., It's pretty good. If you can go to bed earlier than that, even better.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What are vitamins?
What are vitamins? I love that. So, vitamins are, well, there are actually a range of different kinds of chemicals that help your body in one way or another. And we talked about vitamin C and vitamin D tonight, and both those are very important for your immune system. So you get them in what you eat. You can get them from, some of them from the sun and just being out in nature. But yeah, they're very important for your body's health. Does that answer your question?
Okay, my question is oh sorry, my question is odd for you, but I think from being a mum, being used to getting up constantly through the night, my body seems to have become accustomed to that. So I don't sleep much during the night, and if I do happen to have a full night's sleep, I wake up really groggy. I feel like hungover, kind of like I can't function as well as when I've only had a few hours of broken sleep through the night.
That's interesting. I'd say to that our body is really good at forming habits.
Yep.
And yes, when you make changes to those habits, your body's going to make you feel worse. That's just the natural way of things. But I would say if you kept working at it and kept trying to, go to sleep at times, you'd eventually break that habit and then form new ones.
Maybe when the babies stop getting up through the night.
Maybe, yes. So any other questions? We'll go to, yeah, you go.
Yeah.
And we'll go to Zane last.
During the COVID-19, my husband and I traveled to Thailand. We got injection before we left. We traveled on the same plane. We got off at Brisbane Airport. And I mean, that time if you travel, you know that everything got late. So we left late from here and we arrived in Brisbane, and we have to quickly go and catch another plane. The plane have to stop in Singapore instead of going straight to Thailand. And when you stop in Singapore, you will look around, oh dear, COVID-19 somewhere. So we got off at the airport and we went together. We had food. We went out to the open air. They have the part where it's open air. And we put masks all the way through, maybe except the time when we were out in the open air, because it's too much of the mask on ourselves. And then when we arrived in Bangkok, before we arrived, the plane was late for 4 hours. We had to be in Singapore, Changi Airport for 4 hours. We arrived in Bangkok about after midnight, and I decided we too will sleep in the airport because we didn't want to disturb our family. But we were together all that time, did the same thing. But when we arrived at our family house for maybe 1 or 2 days, he got COVID. I didn't. We got everything the same. And my brother said, "You didn't get COVID? You didn't have COVID? You didn't have COVID?" He thought that I told a lie. So how will you explain this?
Look, I think your guess would be as good as mine. Some things just happen. Yeah, I don't think there's a good answer they could give you. They could really tell you why that happened. Immunity, yeah, everyone's immune system reacts differently to the virus. Some people get very, very sick, young or old, and then some people barely know they have it. So, yeah, everyone's a little bit different. You can have a very healthy immune system in a young, healthy person, but they can still get very sick to disease, because the strange thing is that you actually get sicker when your immune system actually fights harder, if that makes sense. And often we have to play this role of not dampening your immune system too much because it's fighting the infection, but also dampening it so it doesn't, cause you to have a super high fever and cooks all your enzymes and can actually lead you to being more sick, if that makes sense. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Everyone's slightly different. But
yeah, on the topic of sleep, I've heard that in the pre-digital ages, before we had lights and whatnot, like medieval ages, people would sleep in kind of 2 stages. So they would go to bed almost at the same time as the sun went down, so around 6, 7 o'clock. Then they'd sleep to just before midnight, and they'd get up and make bread or something. And then they would go back to sleep and for about another 4 hours until it was 6 o'clock. So they'd have a period of being awake between midnight around 10 to 2 o'clock in the morning. I was wondering what your thoughts on that are.
yeah, well, the way I understand it, that the hours before midnight are the most important. So I don't know, I haven't seen the exact literature, but you could very well write that having that bimodal rest of, getting good sleep 6 to 12, that's a good, 6 hours of rest, getting up, doing something, then going back for another 2 hours. Yeah, could be. I don't really know. I'll have to get back to you and read up on those studies. Had one more question here, and then I think we'll call it a night. Thank you, Ravi.
What do you think about people who take intravenous vitamin C, and also wrapping yourself up in blankets when you've got a cold to get your body up with heat instead of taking Panadols so you don't get a headache or whatever?
Yeah, so a fever is actually a natural part of your body's way of fighting off an infection. When you increase the temperature, all that does is it stops your proteins in your body from being able to work function. And the idea is that your body's going to be able to better recover from that than the buggers, whatever is, causing the disease. So yes, there is the idea of sweat it out. We don't recommend it because if a fever gets too high for too long, it can cause you to go into shock and get much worse. And then we have to, put you in ice baths and stuff like that. But yeah, if you do it right, wrapping yourself up and sweating it out can work. For intravenous vitamin C, some people, we need to replace that vitamin C because it is such a booster to your immune system. And often these people are immunocompromised. We want to keep them as healthy as possible. But yeah, we don't want to really be reliant on intravenous or IV levels of vitamins and keep you healthy. We'd rather you be able to get it through your diet. Any comments from Ravi or Ray? All right. Well, with that, thank you all for coming tonight. I'll say a quick prayer and I'll let you all go on your way. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that you have given us such an incredible system that helps keep us healthy. Lord, I pray that people have learned something tonight. They may take something away to look to improve their immune function and health. Lord, I pray that you keep everyone safe as they drive home, and may they be back tomorrow night for another special message from Ore. Dear Lord, thank you again. I pray this in your name. Amen. Thank you.